All right. Good afternoon. My name is Denaja Pendergrass Thomas, and I currently serve as the director of the Placement Exchange. And it is a joy to be with you today for a conversation around engaging in the TPE Recruiter Fair and how you can maximize your brand or leverage your brand and manage your booth experience. It is what we call an extended session workshop, meaning that I will share some information, mostly from my experience on what we would call the interpersonal or soft skill side, and pass along some information and resources from Brazen around the technical or the infrastructure side of using the platform. I give you the disclaimer that I am no IT guru. Also knowing that there are still lots of questions that you all have as employers about how this will work. Just finished an amazing committee call this morning, and we're in a unique place of not wanting to duplicate information that will be available once you register, but also being mindful that employers have a lot of questions and are looking to get insight to have a better understanding of how the platform works. So I hope what you experience today is a good balance of trying to paint a picture for you so that you don't feel like you're completely in the dark, and leave space for you to enjoy the benefit of us going with this third party vendor, which is the training and the guidance and the one-on-one customer service support that they offer, and us not wanting to duplicate their effort or step outside of our lane to become content experts on something that they are the experts on. So let's dive in. I'm going to screen share. I do use slides to guide my presentations. Um, Not to take away, but for some folk who are visual learners, and right, post session for you to be able to have access to this information. Should you need it, you'll have it on screen or in the PowerPoint presentation when we send it out. I will also say, again, it's over the lunch hour for some, breakfast for others. We're together for a long time. I am not the kind of presenter that will make you hold your questions until the end. I have worked with RAs who are quick thinkers and ask in the moment. So I have no problem keeping an eye on the chat. You can raise your hand. I call it challenge by choice. Feel free to turn your camera on if you decide to or want to engage. If you don't, camera off is fine. I'm comfortable talking to my little green screen with ease, but just want to make sure you know that this really is meant to be a conversation and be engaging and allow for you to ask questions as they come up for you. So just a little bit of a background. I never make the assumption that everybody knows what TPE is or who we are and what we do. So this slide is just a little background about TPE. For more than 12 years, we have situated ourselves in student affairs as the place where folk go to find their next job, be it graduate students trying to get their first job or early career professionals going for that mid-level or director role, and so on and so forth. We are known for being tied to NASPA. TPE was in person about a week before NASPA, wherever NASPA traveled across the country. So it's been in Baltimore, it's been in Boston, it's been in San Antonio, it's been in LA, it's been in Indianapolis. 3 years ago, we made the move to go virtual in response to a global pandemic. Since then, we made the decision to remain virtual in response to some trends and promising practices that we are seeing in the areas of recruitment, retention, and advancement across industries in our country, so not just education. As I mentioned, we are cared for and supported by ACU Hawaii and NASPA, but we are autonomous. So they are my home base. I am a part of the staff for both ACU Hawaii and NASPA. They take care of a little bit of our bills and some of our administration, but we exist to serve the full field of student affairs. That's why there's no membership for TPE, and we don't share access or log in with any other association, because we exist to serve all members and all practitioners of our field, regardless of any professional association that you are a part of. In terms of staff, TPE is a small but mighty team of myself, and then I have a partner at ACU Hawaii named Spencer, who is with me about 6 or 10 hours a week. He helps me take care of the customer service, the logistics of the platform that we're on, and some of the other things that keep us afloat. So when you hear me say we, oftentimes I am talking about myself, Spencer, and then a group that I will brag on in just a moment. So I mentioned to you, right, that TPE is known typically for being the once a year placement experience. However, in May, I convened a task force to look at the ways in which we recruit retain and advance our staff, why we do things the way we do, and the impact that that's having on our field. And what we came to recognize is that student affairs is now on par with a lot of other industries, and that people are not waiting to search for a job in the spring and take a hire for July 1 date. People are looking for work 24/7, 365. And so we had some conversation about the ways in which TPE needed to evolve and expand to meet that need of our current practitioners and our hiring employers. And so the response to that was a new vision for what we do and the desire and the plan to serve our field as a year-round service to the profession. And so from that, we've introduced some new guiding principles, which I hope you can see on the screen. We've also established a new vision and mission. And so for here on out, you will hear me reference a lot that we are really trying to provide a service that is a quality experience for hiring employers and job seekers that will help us to transform the ways that we recruit, hire, retain, and advance our staff in this field. There are 3 areas that we want to do this in. We are not abandoning placement, right? That's why we're here having this conversation. But we are also working to expand on what we call connection and learning opportunities in our year-round service to the profession. So much about success in the job search process, particularly around recruiting and advancing, is tied to one's ability to network, to get your name out there, your individual brand out there, and meet folk who can help you to connect with your next role. Likewise, it's so important now in the way that our job market looks for employers to be able to put their brand out there, to showcase your institution, your teams, your culture, and your values to recruit promising talent. And so we were working on creating opportunities for a lot more connection and networking so that job searching and recruiting is not flat and static, but a lot more engaging, a lot more interpersonal and dynamic. Likewise, learning. There are just some skills that go into being successful in the job search process. And people can develop those skills year round as a part of their own professional development. And we want to be a hub where folk can come and develop those skills. In the same way for employers, if you're still convening a search committee and you find yourself having to do that 2 and 3 times a year, as opposed to just waiting for the spring, or if you decide to adjust your model for recruiting altogether, where are the places that you come to learn about trends, promising practices, innovation, and recruiting and interviewing techniques and strategies that you can employ with your search committee and your teams. So again, definitely not abandoning placement. We really want to continue to provide that for folk, but as a year-round service to the profession, adding to that a more robust space for learning and for job seekers and hiring employers, and that networking and connection piece. And ultimately, right, when we look at workforce sustainability, we want to be sure that we are doing our part to help higher education and student affairs sustain our workforce, build it up, get it back to being robust with folk who are diverse in their complex identities and who tell us that they feel fulfilled and maintain good health and feel vibrant in the work that they do. So that's a little bit about the work of the task force and how it's driving the direction that we're going in, which has a lot to do with our introduction of this new virtual platform for the recruiting fair. I mentioned the people that I would brag on because without them, there would be no TPE. Again, mentioning that I am a team of one. Every year we pull in a TPE planning committee, and the committee is comprised of your peers. They are practitioners in this field who choose to spend their volunteer hours helping us support folk who are job searching and hiring. And so they are reading articles and having conversations with me about trends in this field that impact the ways that we recruit, hire, and retain our staff. And so yes, there's certain things that are always standard. You need a resume and a cover letter. You have to interview. But if our currency is people, which it is, that is going to change from year to year, from season to season. And who better to have a pulse on that than folk who are still doing this work in the field on their campuses and with their various organizations. And so we have 3 wonderful people who work with our candidate development opportunities and workshops, 2 folk who work with our employer development and me more closely. And then we have 2 people who work with our graduate ambassadors. We are still deeply connected to our graduate programs and that pipeline, helping those students feel prepared and ready to transfer into their first role, full-time role in the field. And then, of course, my social media and Marcom team, who are way more in tune with navigating Twitter, TikTok, IG, Facebook, and all those channels than I am. So just want to make sure that I shout them out. You will interact with them often. And again, the TP experience is deeply shaped by their passion for this work and the things that they find relevant in this season. So a little bit about what we're talking about, which is why we shifted to including employers in our TPE Academy. This is the first year that we have included employers in the Academy, and it is based on feedback from you all as employers and from conversation with the task force and the committee. And we recognize that employers are looking for resource guidance and tools. We know that you're looking for a larger and more diverse candidate pool, and we are doing our work on that. We are reconnecting with graduate programs. We're having conversations about how we let folk know who have transferable skills or degrees that student affairs is a field for them if they are looking to make a transition or expand their work experience. And then the means to be competitive. This was interesting feedback from employers, and I shared in this space because that wasn't just employers telling us that they needed better salary to recruit talent. It was employers telling us they don't have a recruiting budget or a minimal budget. It was employers telling us, excuse me, that they were still restricted on travel or that they needed access to a virtual opportunity for placement. It was employers telling us that they're short on staff, and so they need a process that allows them to recruit and retain in a quicker time frame with less people to be able to engage in that process. And so we have tried to listen to that feedback and create a placement experience that responds to some of that. And so I hope that you will see that interwoven a little bit in what we talk about today and a lot in what you experience in the weeks to come. And we'll have an opportunity for you to definitely give us feedback on that. So some goals for today, based on what we've heard from our employers. I'm going to give you a bit of an overview on what registration for the placement event will look like. And then I'm going to talk you through at a very high level some of the tech logistics for the recruiter fair so that you can get an idea about the mechanics of it. I'm going to talk to you about the schedule that we've set for it and why it looks that way. And then we'll do the fun work. We'll dive into some creative tips for success and give you some space to share with the group or ask questions about how to craft your own strategy for you and your team engaging in the recruiter fair. So very quickly, registration for TPE is not open yet. I have confirmed that we should be able to open registration on February 13th. I did take a deep gasp. I was like, ooh, that's tight. But my vendors reminded me that part of the benefit of going virtual is that it doesn't take 4 or 5 months to look at materials and build them up. Between the 13th and the 22nd for that recruiter fair in relation to some other things we're doing, all employers will have to do is register and start looking. All job seekers will do is register and start looking at jobs. So things will populate in very quickly. And again, the recruiter fair really is just that open door opportunity for you to get to know candidates in conversation instead of sitting in your conference room with your search committee, reviewing resumes kind of abstractly. We're hoping that the 22nd, right, which we'll talk about a little more, will be an opportunity for you to do that in the virtual space through chat or video chat engagement. So I want to nuance things a little bit because I think it has caused confusion for some people and apologize for that being the case. We launched our new job board on January 11th. Very excited, a long time coming. What is unique about this job board is that you can view job seeker profiles 365 days a year, 24/7. So if you register as an employer, you create your account and you post a job, be it 30, 60, or 90 days. Once that is up and your account's been verified, you can search active job seeker profiles that are in the database. Our job seekers have 3 options for their profiles. They can make them fully public, which means you see their contact information and everything from their resume. They can make them confidential, which means you can see the bulk of their experience and information from their resume, but not their contact information. And that option is available because some folks don't want their current employer to know they're looking or for others to know they're looking, and that's okay. The other is that it's private, which just allows job seekers to look for you, but for you to not reach out to them yet. The benefit of this is right that two-way engagement. If you are looking and you know you have a vacancy right now, you can go in there and you can say, hey, Danaja's qualifications meet this vacancy. We're not waiting till March. I don't need to wait for Danaja to apply. I like what I see. You can message me and say, hi, this is Lauren. We've got a position open. Don't know if you've looked at it, but we'd love for you to take a look at the position. It's an immediate opening, and we'd like to talk more with you about that. That can happen right now. What will also exist is on the 13th, Lauren can register. And when Lauren registers, Lauren will say, I'm hiring for one post. Lauren will post that job, and because it's tied to your TPE placement registration, there will be an icon beside it. It's a little black box that will say TPE virtual. That will let job seekers know that you will be participating in the recruiter fair and doing your interview at TPE. This isn't too far off from how our old platform worked. Visually, it just looks different. The little box in the top right corner is to show on our old platform, when you went to purchase credits, you had the option to purchase credits for the TPE event or for the online job board. That's going to be the same. And so if you go to our job board right now, the information that you see is for the online job board. It's the 30, 60, 90-day option. Once the event opens, you'll register, your job will go on our job board with that designation. Your job post will stay live until April 30th. Because we know sometimes the process for the TPE event lasts a little longer. And so that's just one perk for having your post tied to the placement exchange event. That post will last until the end of April. It also means there's no additional cost to you as an employer. It used to be if you registered for the placement event and you wanted your job to be viewed by candidates who were registered for TPE and just job seekers who come to our board, you had to purchase a premium posting. That's not the case anymore. Your posting will go on our site. It will be searchable and viewable by everyone, but it will have that designation that invites job seekers to register so that they can interact with you at the recruiter fair and potentially interview with you during the placement days. So I want to make sure I touched on everything. I'm happy to pause at this point and let people throw any questions in the chat. If you have them, raise a hand or unmute or ask your question if you would like to.
No, so far so good. Thank you.
Man, you all are making my job easy this morning.
Then I have a question. No, just kidding.
I like your humor. We're gonna have a good time together. This is gonna be good. So moving along, people have had some questions about pricing. And so now that that's confirmed, I'm happy to share it with you. If you ever joined us in person, registration could take you closer to almost $1,000, depending on your booth setup, the number of tables you needed, and the added benefits that you wanted. While we were in COVID, using our old platform, which kind of piecemealed things together, registration was at the $275 mark. TPE does not exist to price people out of participating. Part of our goal of going virtual is accessibility. And so the price has gone up to $475, but that really is to just cover the new technology that we are introducing. And so if you want to register for one job post, that will be $475. That will include the job post and what's called 2 recruiter seats. So if you were familiar with in-person, you know we had tables, consider a table a recruiter seat. And so that means with your registration and your post, there are 2 accounts that you can create that can log in and share view of that information. Feedback from our old virtual space was that, right, there's one account, I've got to log in, download all the candidate information, send it out to my search committee, get it shared. We are adding 2 recruiter seats per job post. And so that means that within your search committee, you can at least have 2 additional logins who can come at any time, see the notes in your profile on candidates that you're looking at, view resumes, make comments, all those things in your profile. It also means that you get the fully customized booth, which I'll show you shortly visually, which is how candidates will come to interact with you, get to know you, and get to know your brand. It includes the video chat access, access to the database of job seekers. If you're hiring for 3 or more jobs, the packages are listed there. There's a 3-job post and a 5-job post package. Those posts or packages do include having your university or your company logo branded on the landing page. We have built that in because any employer who is trying to hire 3, 5, 7, 10 multiple jobs is usually trying to maximize their exposure because they've got a lot of vacancies to fill. And so that's where that additional perk has come from in offering your logo for branding on the event landing page. Some people have asked, Denaj, I got 2 positions and not 3. How does that look? I don't want to have to register at a rate for 3 if I don't have 3 positions. If you crunch the math on there, hopefully our accounting team and I did well. The additional cost is just $275, which is the cost of a 30-day job posting. And so if you need to register with 1 job post and you realize you need to add an additional job post, but you don't need 3, the system will allow you to add your second one. It would be at the $275, which is just the cost of 1 additional job post. So how will you register? When the event goes live, we will blast that out to everyone who has done a webinar with us, the academy with us, or is on our listserv. We will make sure that you get that information. You will visit the site via that link and you will create an account or you'll log in with your job board credentials. That's the unique nature of the partnership between Naylor and Brazen. It's the ability to do single sign-on seamlessly between both sites. You'll post your job, you'll create your profile, and then you'll add your recruiter seats. I'm going to tread lightly because with a name like Denaja, I should not mess up other folks' names. Is it Yashif? Yashvin?
Yep, you got that right. Thank you. So, would you mind to going back on the previous slide? Because I was just making a note and
Sure.
I have just need a more clarification about the booth. So as an example, like right now I am recruiting the 2 position. So in each 2 committees, basically I'm leading. In each committee we have 3 members, and I want to give them access so they can see the candidate's resume. So in that case, so when I look at the 6 recruiters, it means we can give access to basically our TPE website. They can look at the resume. So if I have like, let's say 7 people, then it's not gonna work for me, right? I just want to make sure I understand.
So it will work if you have 7. This was the question I asked because Brazen they're learning that we work a little differently. So I've told people we're building the plane while we're flying it, but we're going to be better than what we were. I have talked to people who have large teams to consider your recruiter seats in pairs. So if you imagine it like that table, one recruiter seat is 1 table. So if Patty and I normally sit at a table and do our interviews, between the 2 of us, I would choose an email account that works and we would share that recruiter seat. That's the closest way that we've been able to bridge it right now. I will say that that's an area we're going to take feedback on this year because we can do more recruiter seats, but they have cautioned us about getting too broad, and I have cautioned them about student affairs is a little different. So we're going to try it this year, but with that question, my recommendation will be to folk to double up your team per recruiter seat if you know you typically run like a 2-person table if we were in person. It's a very good question.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. This is all about Q&A. So yes, Patty, ask away.
Hi, I don't know if this is the right place to ask this question, but does recruiter seats have anything to do with how many interviews we can have going on at one time? I think yesterday in the session, they kind of briefly maybe mentioned how many interviews we can have going on. So just curious what that looks like.
Well, there's nothing more humbling like your technology crashing in the middle of a presentation. So Patty, I apologize. I missed your question. But if you're willing to ask it again, I will be glad to answer.
No worries at all. I was just wondering if the recruiter seats had anything to do with how many interviews we could have at the same, like going on at the same time, or like if I have 2 recruiter seats, can I have 2 interviews going on at the same time? Yeah, does that make sense?
Okay, yes, you do make sense. So what is unique with the platform is that job seekers will come into your booth and you will admit them. So they will kind of go to your booth, let you know they're there on interview day. You will use the number of people who you can get in the room. And so if you were limited by your recruiter seat, then yes, so you would have 2 recruiter seats in your space, which means that for each slot, so say if it's 9 o'clock, 2 candidates could come at 9 and you could run 2 interviews at the 9 o'clock slot if you're doing one job post. So it does tie to the number of people who are in your booth at a time, and each person in the booth can run, or each recruiter seat in the booth can run a chat conversation, which would be where you do your interview.
Thank you. Follow-up question to that. If we just have the one job posting, but we would like more seats, is that fine? So then if we purchase the middle one and have the 6 recruiter seats, could we have more interviews going on at the same time for that one job posting?
I will ask, and we have time to get an answer and see if we can get that worked out.
Great, thank you so much.
Perfect. Any other questions? I don't want to overlook anyone before I move on. Okay. So we talked about how you will register. In terms of connecting with potential candidates to interview, again, the database will give you access to search your registered candidates and profiles in the job board overall. You will have the ability to message people in the platform. And that's where I really wanted to pause. You won't need to kind of leave out to email or have that mediated. Everything you do can happen in the platform, which we hope will feel like a relief and a good bit of convenience for you all and the job seeker. And then you'll also be able to take notes from your conversation and share across your recruiter seat. So say, I don't have institutions in front of me, but say Patty is at Morgan State University and I'm with Patty. We talk to people at the recruiter fair. I talk to Allie, but Patty's going to do the interview. I can put my notes from the recruiter fair on Allie's account and pass that over to Patty so that when Patty gets ready to do the interview on the 7th, Patty's able to see everything that I've taken notes on or any feedback from the recruiter fair interaction with Allie. So what's good about the database is that, and you'll see, we're going to look at a demo video. When you're talking to someone at the recruiter fair, you see their full profile pop up, their resume, their LinkedIn, and other information about them. You can take your notes in that conversation and it just lives there. You're just kind of done until you're ready to go back and pass it along or get ready to move candidates into your interview process. In terms of the reaching out, while it is in the platform, it will look like an embedded email. And so you can put your logo in, you can brand it, you can theme it. When you reach out to people who have visited you at the recruiter fair, or when you're reaching out to folks to invite them to the recruiter fair, you can be as engaging and interpersonal as you would like to be. If their profiles have provided you with their contact information, you can do a follow-up call and say, hey, Lauren, I saw your profile. You should have an email from us. Also just want to follow up with a call to see if you have any questions about having a conversation with us, but we look forward to meeting you. So there's lots of ways now being provided for you to engage with job seekers to let them know your interest. And also it's two-way for them to let you know their interest. So a little bit about why we're going in the direction of a recruiter fair, because this piece hasn't happened with TPE before. If you remember TPE in person, they did used to do some institutional spotlights, but they did happen at the in-person event once schedules were mostly solidified and things were already settled. Part of us wanting to offer a recruiter fair before the interview days were to give schools the opportunity to do some of that networking and to do some of that early screening. We know that some schools use Spark Hire when they're outside of their normal recruiting process or built into their process. We also know, again, some people just go from looking at resumes to trying to decipher who to invite to a first round interview. The recruiter fair gives you an opportunity to do some of that engagement in a more interactive and interpersonal way. You can do it in chat with the candidate in your booth. You can also choose to turn it into a video conversation within your booth, depending on the process that you set up. It is a great opportunity to get your name and your brand out there with candidates before the interview days. Some people are working on a strategy for looking for a job and they just don't know where to start. Stopping by your booth might be a wonderful way for them to hear about what differentiates you from the hiring institution that's also next door or also in the space, for them to go, oh, okay, this is what's unique about North Carolina A&T as opposed to North Carolina Central. I think I might want to interview with both, but gosh, I didn't have Central on my radar. But thanks to the recruiter fair, I've learned some things that are sticking out in my head now. Job seekers will be able to reach out to you and say, hi, I stopped by your booth. I'm very interested in having you look at my materials and for the opportunity to interview. Likewise, you will have the opportunity to say, it was wonderful to meet you. Would love to have you interview with us, and then pass on their information for them to come interview with you. So we are honest, shifting to a virtual recruiting fair is not perfect. This presentation was just proof of it. We were smack dab in the middle of talking and my technology failed me. The good thing about Brazen is that as long as your internet is strong, they've got a very strong system and backup system to mediate a lot of glitches that come with using technology, but we have to get comfortable that sometimes things happen. Likewise, we're not requiring everyone to travel to be in the same space. And so recruiters and job seekers alike have to do their due diligence to minimize or mitigate the distractions that are around you, whether you're in your office with teammates or if you're doing interviews from home, if you can. It can feel a less formal, like a less formal experience. And I think there's benefits and challenges to that. If you wanted to feel less formal because you're desiring to use your recruiter for experience to just get to know candidates, the gift is you can convey that in the virtual space. If you're wanting it to feel more formal, I think there are just ways to let candidates know. We will be doing screening questions during our portion of the recruiter fair if you stop by to see us. It just requires communication so that everyone shows up with the same set of expectations. And there's feedback that there can be challenges with reading the nonverbal signs. That is because some recruiter fairs are limited to just the chat function. What we will be offering is the opportunity to do video chat. And so I think that will help mediate or mitigate some of the challenges with reading nonverbal signs, should you choose to engage with folks who come in your booth through the video option for your chatting. So if you've never done a recruiter fair or a virtual recruiter fair for that matter, there are some things that we hope can happen and should happen. And the first is just the branding, the promotion on your part. We know that institutions have multiple vacancies. There are a lot of institutions hiring, and the data shows us that the candidate pool is smaller than it has been in previous years. And so we want to provide every opportunity that we can for you to shine a spotlight on your institution. And so again, we're going to go through a video, but from having your logo and branding on your booth before a candidate enters, the ways in which you talk about the materials that you want to have up and share and how you're prepared to engage. It is all about how you distinguish your name in the candidate's mind across the market of schools that are hiring. It's for education. It is the opportunity for you to tell people what they need to know about your team and your campus, your culture, your students, and what job seekers can anticipate in terms of their ability to be able to make a contribution and an impact as a member of your team. I consider it the space where you make the resume, the job post come to life. And so if the job post talks about community learning for students in a residential space, or if it talks about creating partnerships through academic advising, how do you breathe life into that while a candidate is in front of you for 10 or 15 minutes to talk about what that looks like uniquely on your campus, so that a candidate goes, okay, there's 20 academic advising experiences. But after my recruiter fair, I have a good pulse on, oh, thank you. I apologize for that, Lauren. That happened when my internet cut off. Right, when a candidate leaves, they know what makes a position unique to your campus as opposed to another, and they can start to think about how that blends or how that fits with the values that they hold and what they're looking for in their next position. And then the last piece is it's just a chance for you to listen and learn. Candidates are being coached in their sessions right now on how to go into a booth, how to tell their story, but to do so with clarity, and to do so with strong communication so that you can hear from them the ways in which their resume comes to life, right? Every assistant hall director position is not the same. And so how do you hear from the candidate in front of you? What is unique about their position? What have they learned from it? What transferable skills have they pulled from it? And how does that translate into what they're looking for in their next position? We hope that it's an opportunity for you all to work together to hear mutual interest and alignment, particularly when it comes to your mission and your vision, and then candidates' values and what you need in terms of roles and responsibilities. So to the nuts and bolts of the recruiter fair, it is February 22nd. In terms of full time, it will run from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's a really long time. And no one except me and maybe the committee will be in that space that long. The research tells us 3 hours, 4 hours max, is really the longest that recruiters and job seekers should be in a space. But what we know is that our field is a little unique in terms of hiring across the country and internationally in some instances. And so what we have worked out are 3-hour time slots based on region. Time slots that don't start anyone too early in the morning and don't keep anyone too late into the evening. And so we will start at the East Coast and work our way over. So from 9 to 12, our East Coast employers will be featured. And I think you will see why. There are a lot of states, and we want to help job seekers be intentional about their search. One to say, if you know you're location bound, just come from 9 to 12 for East Coast jobs. If you know that you only want to be in the mountain region or on the Pacific Coast, just come from 2 to 5 Mountain Time or from 1 to 4 Pacific Time. You don't need to be up at 6 a.m. and be in the recruiter fair all day. Our hope is that this will help them strategize where they're looking and the employers in those areas. And right, if we do smaller groups, that makes it less competitive for our employers. It's going to be harder for you to get a look even over 7 hours if it's open to the entire United States during the same time. If it's in a concentrated area, we hope that it will help job seekers to focus their efforts. It will give them less institutions across states to have to think through during that 3-hour time block. And it will give you a portion of your day back to do those notes, to gather that feedback, to have conversations with your team about next steps, and to get other work done if that's what you need to do on that day. Any questions about why we're going to go with time zones for the recruiter fair, or any feedback on that, concerns you might have about it?
No, thank you. It makes sense.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. During the course of that day, there is a 1-hour block that we have not scheduled, and that is because we're going to hold our welcome and our employer network option. So from 3 to 4 Eastern Time, 2 to 3 Central Time, 1 to 2 Mountain Time, and 12 to 1 Central Time, Mary and Kevin will bring you greetings. Myself and the committee will say hello very briefly, and that will be 1 hour that there will be no job seekers in the space. I know, because I used to be a hiring employer at TPE. It was enjoyable to be able to connect with folks that you knew you were going to see every year, see their booths, see what they're going on, see what they have, learn more about the positions they're hiring for. We're holding this hour for that. And so everyone who wants to be there, their booth will be open. You can pop in, say hello to your peers, talk shop, have conversation. We will have a general booth open so that if you have questions or need help, will be there to support you. And then the Naylor and Brazen staff will be in the general booth as well if you have any technical questions or concerns. But this will be the employer network hour that will be just for you all to connect, engage, or reconnect and engage, and say hello to your friends and peers who you are used to seeing during the placement time. The next piece, yes, Lauren, go ahead.
So I think I'm understanding it correctly, but so with our booth, more than one job seeker can cut during the recruiter fair. More than one job seeker can come into the booth at once, and we can be talking to multiple candidates at one time in that space. Is that correct?
You got it. You have the ability to admit them so that it doesn't feel overwhelming, right? You don't just want people to keep popping up and popping up, but you have the capacity to admit multiple job seekers in. It will feel almost like a breakout space from the Zoom platform. It's just embedded in your booth space.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Awesome. So this video, I'm going to tell you this is why we have a 90-minute session, but I think this video will be important for you, and then I can answer some questions. It is a conversation with a Career Center staff person who did an event fair for a university in Hawaii. We're going to pick up at about the 22-minute mark, and I specifically want you to be able to hear them talk with her about how they help both job seekers and employers navigate the experience. And so you'll get a view, you will get to see what it looks like when job seekers come into the space. They will also show you what it looks like for job seekers to come to a booth and for employers to engage in conversation, to start that chat, to go into a video chat. And then they will talk a little bit about the perks that I'm excited for you all, which are the analytics and the metrics that once the event is done, we will be able to see your traffic, let you know who came to your booth, the capacity that you have to follow up and share notes. So I'm not a person who likes to reinvent the wheel, so I'm going to share their demo video with you. But again, if you have questions, I will take them once we go through. So hang tight. I'm going to make sure that the volume works well for us.
And entered once. And then I also had and enter the event. Kim obviously created her own.
So with that small clip, were you able to hear their voice clearly? I'll take a thumbs up just to let me know.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Screen.
Question, you can use some of our pre-populated ones. And then the students can go ahead and hit submit and enter the event. And so as they come into the event, these slides are going to welcome them, make sure they know what to expect here today. As we all know, sometimes the more proactive students may go ahead and look at resources ahead of time, but for those that don't, they're going to have this short information sample here. Great. And then coming into the event, and this is something, Kim, I really loved about your event, and I've seen a couple different customers do this, is leveraging this welcome video here. I think this adds a really nice touch. And what this is from any provider like YouTube, Vimeo, any pre-recorded video that you want to go ahead and play for the students here as they come into the event. This will automatically start playing and welcome them to the event. Great. And then skipping right to the lobby here. So just to talk through what the students would see. So coming in here, the students on the left, talking about what Kim mentioned. So coming in here, obviously I'm able to look at all the employers here, right? Each employer has their own booth at this career fair. But if I'm a student looking for a specific employer or a specific role, I can come in here and I can easily keyword search by, a specific employer, or, judging like Kim had mentioned, let's say, I'm looking for folks who are hiring, let's go ahead and do majors hiring for, we'll do engineering, we'll apply that. I can see everyone that's hiring for engineering. And then if I want to go, let's say by location, I can search for those that are hiring in New York. And once I apply those, it's going to show me those booths there relevant to that opportunity. And these criteria here, these can be completely customizable as well. So if you want to build your own criteria so that the booths and the employers can be sorted, the students are going to be able to easily find what they're looking for. And then just to flip back to some of the other pre-event ideas that we have. So let's come here. Perfect. So Brazen has really, I think, even especially lately, built out a lot more resources for both the employers and the students. And here, I think this is hot off the press, Kim. I'm not even sure if this is something that we had, when you came on board, but this guide for the students is going to teach them everything they need to know before the event, during the event, troubleshooting, how to follow up with employers after the event. And this is going to be a really great resource to provide students. And then, of course, when it comes to the employers, we have a full help section, for example, how to participate in a live event. So any reps that you have can watch this video. If they'd rather read, they can do that. And then here's going to be the links to our live trainings, which are twice a week. So again, really trying to take that step to make sure that you all have all the resources you need to be successful. And Joe, I think you can continue on and we can show more of the during event stuff at the next stage.
Sure. I think, Kim, we've jumped around here a little bit. You talked about how you got the employers prepared for the event. Did you mention the sandbox session that you did? And well, why don't you talk about that real quick?
Yeah. So one of the things that we decided to offer for our employers was a series of demo events that we set up the week prior to career day. So it seemed like a lot of our employers had actually never used Brazen before and maybe never been in a virtual career fair space. So we offered 30-minute sessions with a maximum of, I believe it was 4 employers per session. So we had a lot. We had like 8 or 10 sessions. And the idea was to give them a lot of personal attention with people acting as mock students, coming in, engaging with their booth, allowing their reps to register, to play around with the platform and just kind of get comfortable, check out the features, learn how to invite students to their booth, which is a cool feature, learn how to enable their webcams and their audio and make sure that their technology was all working. And we actually worked out a lot of kinks and a lot of little issues in those demos. And I would say about half of our employers, about 40 of our 80 employers participated, which was great. So it took a little bit of time, over 2 days, we had a bunch of back-to-back sessions and we just engaged our own staff and faculty, as well as some of our student ambassadors to play students to just go in and start chats with their booth. So I would highly recommend that. It doesn't cost anything. Brazen allows you to set up demo events for free, which is nice, as many as you need. So that's something that we've been doing. We have another event actually tomorrow, and we did our demos a couple of days ago.
Fantastic, yeah, and you touched on a really cool feature, the inviting candidates to chat. So Kyle, can I throw it back over to you and maybe we kind of take a step into the event again and talk a little bit more about that feature, as well as like on the day of the event, here's kind of what the engagement looks like.
Sure thing. Yeah. Will I have to share my screen here? Or am I still going?
We can still see Brazen University Career Fair.
Perfect. All right. I'll go ahead and flip back to our event today. Great. So actually getting inside the event, and I'm going to hop over to the employer view here. That way we can show how to invite a student to your booth. So this is something where before the event, anyone who's a customer with Brazen, you'll have the option to do this. So this isn't mandatory, but it will be allowed where you can enable the employers to search through the registrants. So they will simply come up here and search registrants. And there's not too many today, but in a real event, this is going to show all of the students who are pre-registered. And even during the event, this is possible as well. So if I'm an employer and let's say, I'm looking for certain type of students, I'm actually able to search based on the event registration information. So another point in Kim about how important that event registration can be. This is also where the employers are going to be able to search. So let's say I'm looking for students that are into engineering or a specific role. I can search by any of these criteria, but we'll go ahead and do that. And we'll go ahead and hit apply. And great, we found that Kyle here, we're able to see that he's, his major is engineering. We're able to see his relevant profile information as well as his resume before the event or during. And then we can go ahead and invite to booth. And this is going to send a notification via email to the student. It's going to let them know, hey, we're interested in chatting with you. And then during the event, they're going to be able to come in and chat with us. So just a really nice touch for employers who want to be a little bit more proactive, find some students that they really want to speak with, and then go ahead and invite them to speak during the event.
Awesome. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Go on, Kyle.
All right. So during the event, right, the students are in the lobby. Touching back on Kim's point here, if students did go ahead and register and they want to come back and upload a resume or anything, they can always do that even after they've registered. And so actually getting into it here. So right within the event, I'm able to see all the different employers that are here. Over on the right-hand side, this is really a great opportunity for the university, anyone who's hosting this event, to add any resources here for the students. So you can see we've got our welcome video here. And I even pulled this, Kim, from your event because I loved how you had. You all had a general event info booth and then a few quick tips for students here. But really anything that's going to be helpful for the students is able to be added over here on the sidebar. And then when it comes to the actual engagement, so obviously the students, like I said, they can search through the booth, find the employers that they're looking for. But once they go ahead and enter the booth, so this is where each employer is really going to be able to customize and build out their branding for their booth. And in this example event you see here, IBM has got some roles, so they've got actual links to join their talent network to some of their open positions. And then they can add videos, any content that they really feel is going to be helpful for the students. And then as a student, once I'm ready to go ahead and chat, all I have to do is click this chat button here. And an optional feature, this is something that I don't believe was leveraged in your event, Kim. Do you know if any of the employers had set up Smart Queue for your event?
Yes, they did.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. And as far as, did you get any feedback or kind of have any insight? Because I think, from our perspective, I know it's a great piece, but we'd love to hear like a specific example of maybe why you used it and, the thought around that.
Yeah, so the Smart Queue feature allows employers to highlight specific opportunities that they have that they're looking to fill within their organization. And then when students choose to place themselves in line to speak with their representative, it will ask them a couple of screening questions. And based on their answers to those screening questions, it will determine what type of opportunity A they're looking for. It will ask them about their qualifications, and then it will allow candidates to potentially move up their place in line to speak with employers based on how they answered, so that employers are maximizing their time talking to the preferred set of candidates. And I know a handful of our employers did use this, and I think they liked it. It allowed them to be more efficient.
Absolutely, yeah, and I've heard a lot of feedback that for the employers who might be a lot, very popular, they know they're going to have a lot of students here. This is really just a great way for them to surface those candidates, or have basically the queue built on qualifications. So yeah, really glad to hear that you utilize this. Again, this is an optional feature here. Great, and now as a student, I'm in line and ready to go. So for today, we'll go ahead and flip over to the employer view, and we can see the actual chat take place. So again, before the event, the employers are going to be able to set up their booth, customize it, build it out. And as far as the booth representatives go, each employer is able to have as many reps really as you allow them. So I know certain customers will kind of guide employers on how many they should have. Brazen's account management team, we can also make recommendations on how many reps you should have based on how many student signups. But again, you can have as many reps as you allow the employers to have. And on the day and time of the event, all the employers really have to do is just come into their booth and make themselves available to chat here. Awesome. And as soon as the system recognizes that an employer is available and a student's available, it's going to go ahead and connect them in this one-on-one chat that you see here. And just to touch on a few things that you see quickly. So over here on the right, again, this is why the event registration becomes so important. This is going to be all the information about the student that the employers are going to be able to see. Here, they can also view and download the student's resume right in real time. And down here, this is really just a quick way where if you want to start the conversation with the student, you don't have to retype certain things over and over. You're able to save scripts, go ahead and send the student a question while you're looking through their information. And as far as the timer goes, this seems to be which draws all the eyes. So really the timer here, I think commonly we see 10 minutes for career fairs. Depending on how you feel, each customer or each event can be customized to be longer or shorter. I will say when this timer gets down to 2 minutes, the booth rep is going to get a 2-minute warning, and they can then extend the chat by another 2, 5, or 10 minutes. So the reps will always have that opportunity to keep the conversation going. Awesome. And then as far as the platform, so this is a feature we released in May and we are very, very excited about. So Brazen has both video and audio built right into the platform. So here, if I'm chatting with the student John and I want to go ahead and invite him to a video call, I'll simply hit the video button here and hit start. And so what it's going to do, it's going to go ahead and invite John to the chat. Look over here. Get rid of that one. Great. And so the student is going to see that they are invited to chat. And so they'll have the moment to make sure their background's okay, sort of take a deep breath and go ahead and accept this video chat here. And I apologize, I do sometimes run into problems with this being on the same computer, but we'll see if it goes here. And it could also be that I'm on video with GoToMeeting. So I'm actually going to pull up this video here. Great. And just as we discussed, the rep's going to be able to see the student that they're speaking with and go ahead and invite them to this video chat here. And again, it's going to go ahead and invite the student. And then once the student accepts, it's going to bring them right to this one-on-one video chat. And just to note here, they're still going to be able to see the timer. So the reps are never going to lose track of time. If they do want to talk about something that the student had said previously in the text chat, they're still going to be able to view that. So kind of giving you the best of both worlds here. And then flipping back to our conversation. So within these conversations, each rep can really manage how they want their conversations to go. So let's say, I have no interest in doing video or audio. I can choose to speak with multiple students at a time. These would all be one-on-one conversations. I could just be having more than one at a time. And Kim or Joe, anything sort of before I end the chat here, any comments or things to note that others might find helpful?
We encouraged our representatives to select from either 1 or 2 chats at a time. We started everybody off at 1 and we said, hey, if you feel comfortable and you want to take on a second chat, feel free to add or change that while you're in chat. You can select 2. Same for students, right? Because we want to make sure that they're engaged and their full attention is on the person that they're chatting with. However, as Kyle mentioned, if it's just chat based, then they might be able to handle 2 at a time.
We also have lots of questions coming in. I mean, maybe one question here before we kind of move along is, and I'll say this is for Kim. Can you talk about, you talked about all the training that you did for employers, the resources that you provided, both from the Brazen perspective as well as the FAQ documentation that you created for the students. But there's been some questions about the user levels that you give to employers and their access to the creation of their booths. Can you kind of talk about the different user levels?
All right, gonna pause here.
Sure. So
If I didn't click again, I'm gonna pause here. take a moment and allow you all to process what you saw and allow for some conversation. Any thoughts about what you see in the platform? Any questions that you may have for me?
I have a question. So again, the platform looks great, but the question is like, so once we post our job on a board, then so this account, this platform is associated with our account on a TPE, or here's our TPE account. We need to create the new account on this platform, and then how we gonna connect it together?
So Brazen, part of why we chose to go with Brazen is because they have an integration partnership with Naylor. And so it should be a seamless sign-in for you as an employer. And so the job that you use for the event will show on the jobs at the placementexchange.org job board. And so that part should and will be seamless. Again, I say we're building the plane while we're flying it. Good question. But part of our choosing their partnership is because they have that integration agreement.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry, Lauren, I see your hand up. What can I answer for you?
So can we be like, when job seekers come into the booth, can we already be on camera there for them, or is it just being there available by chat and then inviting them to do video if we want?
It is there by chat and inviting them to do video. What we will share from TPE is that our recommendation is that everyone do the video option. That is the interpersonal piece that our field has talked about wanting. And so what we have put in our like supplemental guide is that when they come in, you can use the chat to say, welcome in. We'll send you the invitation to connect for video conversation momentarily. So we're not going to take that away, but our recommendation is that you just use the chat to welcome them, and that then you go into the video engagement for your conversation.
I have one more question. I really like I think it was when they got in the overall system, they saw the welcome video. Is there a way in your booth to add some sort of welcome video?
Not that I have seen, but I have a meeting on Monday. And this is something that I can absolutely ask about.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I have another question too.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. So like on a Brazen platform, like you can create your account, but there are like so many other options, like there's a free account with a paid account. So my understanding, when we register our job on a TPE placement exchange, is all this platform is part of our job posting. So let me even think what I want to ask. So like basically then do we create a free account with them, or because we already had paid the money as a part of posting? So how do we navigate that part?
So you will never, trying to think. It shouldn't be paying anything additional. It's just like last year with TPE. You had an account with us, you might have paid for a 30-day job posting, and then when it came time to placement, you had a specific job tied to it that you registered for. The one job posting, the two or more, whatever you pay at registration will cover everything. If you have a job posting that's live now, that is considered a separate posting on our job board. If that's the same job that you want to use at placement, you can re-register with that posting, and that will just extend its window. But yeah, we're definitely not trying to make you double post to increase your cost. We want lower cost.
Great. And the other question I have also like is was looking at the videos. I think like for the events, you can go and search the candidate, like they were using the engineering and yada yada yada. But for our purpose, like what kind of search tools will be available? Like example, like I'm from housing and residence life, so I want to see who's interested in housing and residence life. So I just want to make sure it'll be more helpful to us if
Sure.
we can basically create the criteria that can help us. Like again, I understand this is more just like a information purpose. So they use the engineering, but I want to make sure they understand, like in a university setting, this is what we're looking in a candidate.
Sure. So the fields that we are going to use are the same ones that are unique to our job board in our field. So of course you saw it said engineering and some other things. We use the same categories that we used on our old board. So it will be everything from academic advising to admissions to adult and continuing education, alumni relation, the fields that are unique to student affairs. That is what we'll go over for the search filter. In the same way, we will use whether or not it's full-time, part-time assistantship, or fellowship. What's unique to us, right? Is it entry level, mid, senior level? We'll use that language. And then, of course, education, we're unique. Some of our jobs require masters. So those fields, we will keep that consistent between the two. Mhm.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think you all figured that out. We're just curious.
Oh, I have far from figured it out. I think I know more about IT than I ever wanted to, and I'm certain that it is not the field for me. I'm okay to learn it for what we're doing here, but it is a whole new world for sure. And so that's why every question is welcome. If I can't answer it, you see me taking notes. The good thing is we're at a point where I can take some of this feedback and make sure we build out something good for you.
Yeah, because I quit IT field. Like I'm done with IT field.
Absolutely. Completely understand. So again, right, my field of expertise is the interpersonal and the interactive part. And so my encouragement is for you to talk. Thank you, Allie. This is the fun part. Or at least I hope it's experience is the fun part for you to talk to the folk who are going to be in your recruiter seats or be your booth representatives around the things that can make it eye-catching. Going to check on that video for you, Lauren, and see if that's a possibility. But even if in your video conversation, when you can screen share, we've had people do the institutional spotlights before, particularly for live on roles, a day in the life of a coordinator, things that you can have on hand to share with job seekers who come to see you to help them really get a feel and get a vibe for what it's like to be on your campus. It may seem small, but it's what we used to do in person. Cool colors, have your Zoom background, have those things around you that really communicate your brand and your energy from you and your team. I really, just from partnering conversations, I really can't emphasize enough about your preparation and your willingness to talk about your campus culture, to talk about your staff and your team, particularly around values and equity, inclusion, social justice, accessibility, and belonging. They are not buzzwords. These are things that job seekers are holding very tightly to, and rightfully so. And I know that you all on your campuses are deeply committed to how this looks for your culture and how it's embedded in the work that you do. This is the place for you to be able to have those conversations and talk about what that experience is like on your campus and what job seekers can expect, the work that you're doing, in all honesty, the work that you know you need to do, and being comfortable with naming that and talking about the things that are in place to get you where you want to go so that job seekers know what that investment looks like. And then the last piece is to really spend this time to talk to job seekers about what they can expect. We've heard two pieces of feedback. I think both are true. Job seekers have talked about interactions with employers, expressing interest and never hearing anything back and just being unsure where they sit in the process. Employers have talked about, putting time, effort, and energy in conversation with job seekers, only to find out that the job seeker is not interested in moving to Iowa to be at Iowa State. And so what we are saying in this space to you all is be prepared to talk very openly about your process, what job seekers can expect post recruiter fair, right? It's okay to say we're meeting a lot of people, we're reviewing a lot of materials. Candidates that we are interested in speaking with will hear from us by March 4th, March 5th, so that you have enough time to prepare for your interview on March 7th. If you don't hear from us with an invitation to interview, you will get that message from us thanking you for your time and for giving us the opportunity to know more about you. Just be prepared to be open and honest with job seekers about where your process is. And honestly, I think I just got a little ahead of myself. So these are Danaja's tips for success. They are not proven, but the communicator in me thinks they hold value. Be open. We know what the pool of candidates looks like in our field right now. And so there are a lot of folk who are coming from other disciplines, other backgrounds, who have transferable skills that will make them competitive candidates with a little bit of training and development, or some who can just hit the ground running. I am a case study in that. I have a master's in sport administration and a master's of divinity. I'm a 12-year veteran in student affairs. I took a job because I really wanted to continue to work with students. I was committed to doing some of the background work to help me hit the ground running. I own the Green Book and have been in workshops and some professional development to do that. But it mattered that I was at an institution who could hear and see the transferable skills that I had and what I could offer to the role, and were willing to invest in me to give me the opportunity to get into the field. There's deep value in our programs. I am very committed to them. I support them and their space to welcome in folk who may not have a HESA background, but are interested and are passionate, and with some training and development can do the roles that we are looking to fill. Be clear. Clarity is kindness. Talk about your timeline. Talk about what candidates can expect throughout your whole process, from the recruiter fair to your interviews, if you could do the virtual on campus or in person on campus, what your timeline looks like for the whole thing. Being in mind that you're looking at multiple candidates, but they're looking at multiple employers and trying to keep up with processes for various institutions. So do your best to be clear about your process and your timeline, and then be honest. Most people have the emotional intelligence and the skill set to be able to navigate a no. It's a lot harder to hold on to an affirming or positive narrative when you are trying to fill the gap of silence. And so we call it the no pile, the warm pile, and the hot pile. And so if you know you're moving with candidates, we typically reach out to them very quickly and we tell them what they can expect. It's actually the people in the warm pile that don't hear from us, and they're the ones that we probably need to keep closest in touch with. We don't want to tell them no yet, but we're not at a place to tell them a firm yes. I encourage you and your team to think about what your communication looks like with people who may find themselves in a bit of a holding pattern in your process, but are still on your radar. But ultimately, at the end of the day, TPE is asking all employers to have some plan for communicating with everyone who visits to your booth, whether it's a thank you for your time, whether it's a we may reach out, or it's a we look forward to seeing you on March 7th. Please think about and have a plan for reaching out and communicating to everyone who takes the time to visit your booth. So we are at 1:21. I didn't think we had 90 minutes worth of information, but we did. I want to pause and make some space to hear from you all. Have you in your search committees, or have you as a hiring manager thought through what you might want to do at the recruiter fair, some ideas that you have, any last questions that you have about engaging in the recruiter fair space? Okay. Well, I'll ask a different question. You can use the hand raise feature. Has anyone ever engaged or participated in a recruiting fair or a career fair setting?
In a virtual setting, no, but in person, yes.
Okay, well, let's start within the in-person space. What were some things that you found worked out really well for you recruiting at a recruiting fair or at a career fair?
So the things that mostly work out for like the way we have done in the past. Again, I'm talking about the before pandemic event. So no, it seems like long ago, but it's like I think you covered that in earlier when you were discussing about the like keeping in a personal touch. Like yes, we're gonna see 10 students or 100, who knows? But keeping a tab on each individual, as example, like what they are saying when we are meeting with them. So utilizing a personalized answer they give us when we're reaching out to them. So it's like you are not just a number for me, but you are an individual for me. So having the personal touch in a communication really help us.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. It is difficult and different to translate that into a virtual space, but that is it's exactly why we at least want to introduce the opportunity for it, because I think it's a valuable piece that we haven't had before, that's more important now than ever when we think about trying to draw people into the field. Anything anyone is excited about, especially since it will be your first time engaging in a recruiter fair? Anything that excites you about this opportunity?
I think I am mostly excited to be able to use the recruiter fair as just an opportunity to really highlight our institution and what we have going on. I do not work at an institution that comes with, I would say, the ability to hear the name and know exactly what we're talking about and where we are. And so being able to kind of highlight ourselves in a new and interesting way, knowing that I am at a school that doesn't, bring the name recognition automatically, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, Lauren, you make perfect sense. I have multiple conversations with employers who were a little sad when we left in person. They were like, people don't know who we are, but once they meet us in person and they connect with our staff, they're like, these are the kind of people I want to work with. And so that has been, their drawing piece. And like, we haven't had the space to convey that in 2.5, almost 3 years. And I was like, that matters. And so we're hoping that this will allow that door to open up again. And yes, Allie, I'm excited because it's a new experience. I think anytime we can introduce innovative practice that shows that we are stretching and growing, and I think the benefits outweigh any of the trepidation or the costs that we'll experience. There's a learning curve for anything that's new, but I think what we have to gain significantly outweighs some of the frustrations or the small headaches that we might get from it, for sure.
One question, does the system log essentially all the people who stopped by your booth, or should we be keeping like notes on who was there?
So the system will log who comes in for you, and we from our general oversight booth will have the ability. I didn't want you to have to watch the whole extra 20 minutes, but I'm going to send that link out to you all. Better to watch with a cup of coffee. They give some examples of what the analytics look like on the back end. And so even throughout the day, I will be able to go in and see what booth traffic looks like, which is why the time zones will help a bit as well. And so at any point in that 3 hours, I can send what's called a broadcast message, and it can allow me to remind candidates or job seekers of all the booths that are available. It can allow me to plug certain booths, and particularly kind of drive people to spaces in case for some of our employers, you're not getting the looks that you would like or that you need. There's some ways for us to intercept that and for us to be able to tell you the traffic that you got. Sometimes I've been told the lines get long, kind of waiting for people to come in. And we don't want people like, why did we lose some people because it just took us a while to get to them? We'll be able to see that foot traffic and share that information with you from an administrative side as well. Well, listen, you all have wonderful questions. They have been helpful at best. I hope what I've been able to share with you has been helpful. I appreciate the grace that you've shown and the engagement that you've provided. Once we do go live on the 13th, you heard it in the session, we plan to do the same between the 13th and the 22nd. We're going to offer some 30-minute time slots for employers to come in, test out the system. Some of my committee members are going to be job seekers, so that you can get a feel for what that experience looks like interacting in real time. And again, for us to get some pulse and make sure if there are any kinks that we need to work out before the 22nd, that we can do that. So again, this session has been recorded. We'll be sure to get it out to you all as registered participants. We're not gatekeepers. If there are folks on your staff or at your school that you would like to share this with, please please feel free to do so. It's our only session today because we're trying to be strategic. Today's about the recruiter fair. Tomorrow's about their interview days. So if you think or know someone who would benefit from joining us tomorrow, you can feel free to share the link that we emailed out to you. We will be back tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time to have our second part of this conversation. You have our email address, you have our phone number. If you have questions that pop up for you, please, please, please. It's my job. I don't mind. Email me, call me. I'll be glad to have further conversation with you and make sure that we've got your questions answered and you have what you need to get ready for things that are upcoming.